Apparently, losing sets of two is a trend that we're going to see from the Kings this season as they lose both games in New Orleans, just like they lost both games in Houston, and not exactly the same, but they've lost two games to the Warriors this season. They have six losses, two to the Warriors, Rockets, and Pelicans. Now, this game was much better, as I expected from the Kings, but it started pretty much the same as the first game. And I don't know if I want to say the Kings squandered this game because they squandered so many chances at the end of this game. But should that they have even been in the game in the first place? Like they got themselves back into the game, which is why I don't know if I want to say, they lost it in the fourth because they also played pretty horribly for a lot of this game. And De'Aaron Fox was horrible in the fourth quarter, and it looks like something might be wrong. Like he was limping around a lot. He went 9 for 17 in this game, and at times took over the scoring, but also he led the team with 26 points. He led the game with 26 points. He had more than Zion, but it felt like a bad game from him. It felt like there were times he could have gotten downhill more, and he didn't. But then there were times where he did like take over the game. I would say two separate times when he kind of just took over the game and took over the scoring. But then he just made a bunch of bad decisions in the fourth quarter. There were times when we could have taken the lead, and we did take the lead at one point in the fourth quarter, but times where we could have taken the lead and extended it, and we just went so cold at the end of the fourth. But let's back up a little. So this game pretty much started how the last game started, with the Kings scoring pretty well. It was an okay first quarter, just like the last one was okay, where it's like you're letting the Pelicans score too much, but we were scoring as well, and we're only down by two at the end of the first quarter, and then halfway through the second quarter, it's okay, and then it just all goes horribly. And really, the word I would use to describe this performance, other than the fourth quarter when we started kind of coming back, but really the whole performance is just soft. Like you look at the Pelicans and they are pressing full court, they are getting up into the Kings, making them uncomfortable and forcing turnovers, getting on the offensive glass. The Kings, I don't even think they had an offensive rebound until the fourth quarter. They were not getting up into guys. The only player that I would say that was really getting up to his guy on defense was Chris Duarte, and he was struggling with foul trouble. He picked up a foul on, I think, the first play of the game, but he was solid defensively, I thought, and there were some rough calls on him. There was a lot of foul trouble. Like I said, Duarte had five, Fox had five, Lyles had five. Lyles picked one up where like he didn't do anything, and then he got a technical because you know he was pissed because he didn't do anything and got called for a foul. But it was just a problem of the Pelicans getting to the paint every single possession, and the Kings were just soft. They were not getting up into their guys. They were not making anyone uncomfortable. This Pelicans team does not have a good ball handler right now. They don't have CJ McCollum. They have Dyson Daniels running the point, and he is a very young player. He's not that great. You look at the Pelicans denying Fox the ball on every single possession, and then what do the Kings do? They just drop off of Zion. Like, I understand Zion's super explosive, super strong, and you just want to build the wall. I get it. But you have to make him, or at least the players around him, a little more uncomfortable so that they can't get the ball to him with like a full 24-second shot clock for him to work with. The same thing happened with Brandon Ingram. Like you're just giving them way too much time and space on the ball. They can just look up, see the entire court with no pressure on them, and that makes things a lot easier. But instead, it was just let's have Barnes drop back, and then Zion's just going to drive and still beat Barnes for quickness, and then the help arrives too late and he scores. Or Brandon Ingram's going to go around a screen and we're just not going to help at all like the last possession of the game for the Pelicans, where Trey Lyles just didn't help. He's guarding Zion. I understand Zion's important, but you can't let Brandon Ingram just go right by you to the rim for an easy layup. The Kings obviously struggled with the Pelicans' length, but I think the Kings just really shied away from the length instead of going and attacking it. Anyone who's played basketball has had those moments, where they're playing against, someone older or just like bigger, longer, stronger, better. And the second you start trying to like get away from them with when you have the ball and get away from the contact, like that's when they've already beaten you, right? You have to go straight into it and embrace it. But the only guys on this Kings team who at any point can really do that are Sabonis, Fox, and Harrison Barnes. I guess Malik Monk at times can too, right? Those are the guys that are going to create. And I think for a lot of this game, Fox was just kind of chilling out on offense. And then he would go on his little spurt. But it was like he would just kind of chill on offense, even when Sabonis was out. And then it's left to Monk to try to just create something, and that can be super chaotic. Barnes did a good job, especially in the third quarter, of attacking Zion. He had 22 points, and he was at one point the only guy attacking the paint. I mean, the Kings jacked up so many threes. There's a reason why the Pelicans allowed the lowest 3-point percentage. Those are the shots they want you to take, and they can close out super quickly with their length. They don't need to take that many steps. But some of the decision making offensively, some of the shots that were being taken, and they were just bad. And the Kings took forever to get into their offense because they would have Kevin Huerter bringing the ball up against Herb Jones, which already is super scary, and that takes 8 seconds. And then he's not going to create anything against Herb Jones, so he has to make one pass, and then there has to be another pass to just get the Kings into anything. And at that point, you're down to like 10 seconds on the shot clock, and you might not even have the ball in the hands of the player you want, aka Fox or Sabonis is all the way out at the 3-point line, and then you have 10 seconds to create something out of nothing. And more often than not, that's going to result in just a poor 3-point attempt. And the Kings didn't hit many of them until the fourth quarter. And then Trey Lyles, who came back into the lineup, made his season debut. He knocked down 3 threes, including a 4-point play, all at the start of that fourth to bring us back into the game. And then Monk knocked down a 3, and then he got fouled on a 3. And so obviously it's the 3-point shooting that got us back in the game, because that's how 3-point shooting is, right? It's going to be streaky, but if you don't want to fall down big in the first place, got to do a little more work inside the 3-point arc. And Fox wasn't really going to the midi all that much, and then he finally started to in the third quarter, and that's when we started getting back into it. And then we were cutting it to single digits. It was 84-77, and Fox was at the free throw line shooting 1. He missed that. Then the Pelicans go down and score, and then I think it was the next possession where Fox got fouled. No call, though. Pelicans come down in transition, hit a 3, and all of a sudden all that hard work is gone. I thought the game was probably over at that point, so credit to the Kings for, still fighting. And it was the bench scoring that brought us back into it in the fourth, because the Pelicans bench had been killing our bench for the entire game up until that point. I would have liked to see the Kings try to put someone a little smaller, like a Duarte, on Zion. Just try it. I mean, he was scoring every possession, it felt like, or at least creating something every possession. So, like, why not in these 2 games, we, like, never tried it. Tried to put a quicker defender. Because the only way that you're stopping Zion is either taking a charge or you're going straight up and hoping he misses. Zion somehow didn't get called for a single charge in this game, which I find extremely suspect. There were some questionable calls or non-calls. But the problem really is, I mean, he can just get by Harrison Barnes so easily, and it points to that massive hole in our roster. It's not Barnes's fault that we're asking him to guard Zion. Like, that's just not who he is. But we just have no one else. And Trey Lyles came in, and I kind of feel bad for him. His first game, he has to play 28 minutes and guard Zion for a lot of it. And the Kings, they started doing a bit of a better job in the fourth quarter of getting players into the paint and contesting shots. But I really feel like the difference between the first three quarters and the fourth quarter was the fouls that were being called and the way the game was being officiated. Like, I don't think the Kings did things all that differently. It was just, the later the game goes, once you get to that fourth quarter, the refs swallow their whistle a little bit more and let them play. And so that's when, we could actually stop Zion because we could actually get a little more physical with him in terms of contesting his shot. Obviously, I understand that Zion's going to score. He's going to score, and there's nothing you can do about that over the course of an entire game. But it's just the way that he just did the same thing over and over and would just score on like 5 straight possessions. And the fact that we saw that for 2 straight games and we just have no answer. There's no doubling him to try to get the ball out of his hands or trying to deny him the ball. There's none of that. We tried a zone. That didn't work. I mean, he would just go straight down low to the middle of the zone, and then they would just throw it to him, and he's just stronger than whoever is at the middle. And when they have spacing, then it's harder to help in there, and they could just get open threes if we did. So that was just kind of a problem of what I was talking about earlier, where you don't have ball pressure, so they can just easily stand there with the ball, wait for Zion to get in position, then easily throw the entry pass because there's no ball pressure. Once Zion gets the ball where he wants to get it, this Kings team just isn't built to stop him in any way. But they also weren't doing things to prevent him from getting the ball in the places he wanted to get the ball, with a lot of time left on the shot clock. I thought Sabonis was really good in this game. I mean, he was trying to get inside and score despite not much else going on with the Kings offense. He was battling and playing really well. And it was just such a weird game from Fox. I don't know what to make of it because he would just go on these spurts and then on other times he would just disappear and the Kings would go so cold offensively for so many possessions that he just wouldn't be involved at all. And that's what makes me think that him limping around actually was affecting him and the way that he didn't take over in the fourth quarter like he normally does. Kevin Huerter just couldn't get anything going offensively. One, because nobody was really creating open shots for him. He knocked down a couple and missed a couple open shots. That's what you would kind of expect. But he just wasn't getting that many good looks because he was either being harassed by Herb Jones, so he's not going to create anything, or no one's getting to the rim and getting in the paint to get looks. And then he had a few rough reach-in fouls. I thought his rebounding was solid, but the Kings' rebounding was pretty bad throughout most of this game. Barnes' rebounding is still really bad. But also it's kind of tough to rebound the basketball when you have Zion coming at you and you have to like try to prevent him from scoring. And then if he misses, he probably takes two of your bigger guys with him. And then you just have Valanciunas on the other side who just picks up the miss. It was really nice to have Trey Lyles back to kind of fill the void that Keegan left because he wasn't playing in this game due to back soreness. And boy, we needed Keegan in this game. I do think that if Keegan is in this game, the defense gets a lot better. Just with his size and length and his ability to both guard Brandon Ingram and help onto Zion and clog passing lanes. So I think it would have helped on the defensive side of the ball because we were trying to run Sasha out there a little bit. That didn't work. I would have liked to see more Kessler Edwards to try to provide that ball pressure that I was talking about. Sasha was getting killed. I mean, he can't do anything against Zion, and he was put at the middle of the zone at one point. That did not work at all. And he missed some open looks, made one. But the reason he was in there was because the Kings were going small, because JaVale was horrible in this game. He played 5 minutes and was a negative 16. How is that possible? He was taken out of the game in the first half just because he was making bad decisions on both sides of the ball, just all around. It was probably his worst game we've seen him play. And then, you know, things don't go well for the Kings defense, even when we go small ball. So then he gets his shot in the second half, in that third quarter. And what does he do? He immediately comes in and the Pelicans go zone. He gets to the middle of the zone, catches the ball, and just kind of looks around, then puts the ball on the floor, and it just gets snagged from him. Like, really poor decision making. So that was one of his turnovers. In the first half, he had that one where he just didn't even look, threw the ball in bounds, and it got stolen. So just super sloppy from him, and that's why he only played 5 minutes. Sasha Vezenkov also made a really sloppy pass after he got a rebound. And that's what this Pelicans team is going to do. They're going to make you uncomfortable. They're going to press up onto you with their length and do it full court. And that's kind of the opposite of what this Kings team has been doing. It wasn't the best Malik Monk game, but it also definitely wasn't the worst. He was trying to get downhill and attack. His shot wasn't falling like it had been the past 3 games, but he just honestly had no help on that bench unit. That bench unit was so bad in the first half. The Pelicans won this game because they were plus 34 in points in the paint, 62 to 28. And they shot 37 free throws to the Kings 35, but having 62 points in the paint plus 37 free throws. I mean, I thought the Kings would be able to come out and just be a little better than they were in the first game. And I mean, I guess they were a little better, but also it was like the offense scored a little bit more than last game, but the defense was just as bad, I think. I really think it's just a matter of the Kings just match up horribly with the Pelicans. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think it's just a matter of we just need better personnel. Like, we just need, a bigger wing guy. There's no doubt that this Pelicans team is really good. And when they were healthy last season, they were really good. But I think on the offensive side of the ball, like the Pelicans, they have length. They're a good defensive team. But the Kings can absolutely be better offensively than they were in this game. I mean, in both first quarters, they played well offensively. They started 5 for 8 from 3 in this one, but it was because they were getting really good 3-point looks. And maybe they're not going to hit them at that rate for the rest of the game. But the 3-point looks that they got for the rest of the game were way worse. And it was just about getting to the paint and getting those kick out threes. The Kings definitely struggled to continue to get Sabonis deep in the paint. And I felt like whenever he attacked, it was just him going one-on-one. And a lot of times he scored. Like I said, I thought he was really good. But there wasn't much creation for him. We got a few nice Malik Monk pick and rolls with him. But nobody was making things easier for Sabonis inside. And last season, the Kings struggled against the Pelicans, and they also struggled against the Timberwolves. Both teams have length. And Minnesota, coming up in this next game, is a really good defensive team. They're not going to have Jaden McDaniels, so that's a big miss for them. But they still got Rudy Gobert back there. They still got Kyle Anderson, who might slot into the starting lineup, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I don't know who they're going to put in there. Anthony Edwards is going to defend hard, and they got the Twin Towers in there. This is an in-season tournament game, but I'm definitely worried about this matchup. It's two 2-0 teams going at it, but I'm less worried about it than the 2 games against New Orleans, because the Timberwolves don't have Zion to just go to the rim every time. they do have Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, Karl Anthony Towns has been amazing. We know Ant is really good. I do think though it's probably a little better of a matchup, at least a tiny bit for the Kings on that side of the ball. But I went to a Timberwolves game last season, and all I remember was the Timberwolves hitting corner three after corner three after corner three. And I think that it kind of came down to the same problem of the Kings just not making them uncomfortable and letting them get their heads up to get those cross court passes to the corner, which I feel like that's kind of what happened against New Orleans, except that instead of corner threes, it was just getting it into the paint. Keegan Murray is questionable for this game. I also don't really know what the status on Keon Ellis is, but he was getting shots up, so he looked okay. I didn't really talk about Davion Mitchell in this game. He played 10 minutes and, he was fine. I don't know. He didn't really do much. But by the record, the Kings are way better when Keon Ellis plays. I'm not sure that they've even lost when he's been in the rotation. I guess not counting that Houston Rockets game. I guess because he was in garbage time, but I think he played a little bit of regular rotational minutes in that one. I just want to see Sabonis take it straight to Rudy Gobert. I want to see Fox take it straight into Rudy Gobert. But I also think, Harrison Barnes showed what he could do, I think, in these last two games offensively. Like, it felt like he was coming back a little bit into last season's form. And if he's going to be guarded by Karl Anthony Towns when both Cat and Gobert are out there, then he can absolutely punish that matchup in a similar way that he punished the Zion matchup by making Cat close out to him on the 3-point line. Hopefully, he's hitting his threes at a decent rate like he was in this one, and then drawing him in, going straight by him, and drawing fouls inside. He's definitely someone that we need going offensively if Keegan still is out. I would say the positives in this game are that the Kings fought back at the end and made it close, and they could have very easily won this game at the end. And then the other positive is getting Trey Lyles back and him playing super well, like immediately coming in, giving 28 minutes, giving 28 really solid minutes, good rebounding, obviously knocking down those threes, attempting to guard Zion, doing it well a couple times. Also, it was good to see Duarte in the starting lineup after he was questionable coming in. Sasha played after we had his thumb injury. There's been a lot of minor injuries at the end of this road trip, so that's kind of why after the last game, I was saying it's kind of disappointing how the schedule has us playing our most important in-season tournament games at the end of this road trip / the first game of coming back home. But we're getting our guys back. Hopefully Keegan is back in the next two games. And it's kind of funny because I think last year the Kings were not great at home, but they were really good on the road. And so far this season, they've only lost one game at home, but they have not been great on the road. They did win the first three games of this road trip, but they don't have a winning record on the road this season, which I would rather have them be a better home team than road team. I won't be able to recap the upcoming game against the Timberwolves right away. I'll probably get that out on Sunday because that's when I'm coming back home. Now it's not a must win for the Kings in terms of the in-season tournament, but it would obviously be a big win to be able to top the group, because I think if they lose that game, then there's not really a chance of them topping the group, but they could still get in the second place wild card spot. But in that case, they would hopefully not lose by a lot if they were to lose, and then they would have to beat the Warriors by a good point margin probably to get that wild card spot, most likely on point differential. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back, like I said, probably on Sunday to recap the game on Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Peace.